All right, welcome to the Benzo Rehab Dungeon, episode 61. It is the 8th of October, 2021. I am your host, Michael Deebs. Joining me, as always, the gentleman, provocateur, ne'er-do-well from time to time, Danko Suvin from the Instagram handle at DankDeluz.
Inshallah.
Also joining... sorry. Didn't mean to ruin your intro there. Also joining me, as always, is John, the producer. Kind of mixed feelings on him. He is at the Instagram handle at Discopathic. And finally joining us for the third time, because he has not yet learned his lesson, Teddy K, our Russian history expert, which he will contest me on, but I will call him that anyways. Starting with John, how are you doing today, sir?
Distraught. Yeah.
Is it because I have mixed feelings about you?
Oh, I mean, I couldn't really care much about that.
Oh, okay.
But no, I did. I've got, I guess, my first sexual harassing stalker online. It's come to my attention. Well, technically, yes. So I have more online sexual harassers.
Oh, okay. Is this podcast related people or?
Oh no.
Oh, just, okay. Well, that's good.
I mean, probably, but
I'm still stuck on this. What do you mean? Did you mean to say it's technically me?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
Well, you're everywhere.
It's one of my sock puppets. Oh, okay. It's one of my sock puppets. Okay. I got to get those under control, man.
Yeah, I'm convinced.
Yeah.
Danko, how are you doing?
Man,
I think you learned a lot about yourself just now.
I did. I feel like I should apologize.
Yeah.
For
it's not required. HR.
The things I did.
Yeah.
And the things I did. I'm doing all right, man. I'm doing fine. I'm back in California.
Welcome back. I thought I smelled something.
Woo! I'm pretty good. I'm really excited to have Teddy come here for the third time to talk about Peter the Great, which is, it's awesome that we've had 3 sessions where we've talked about this man, because we did 1.5 on fascism, and I felt like that was too much.
Yeah, and you know, it is remarkable that even though we've stuck on this kind of era for so long, this is one of the more often requested topics that we return to. So people
really like this boy.
I refuse to believe that.
I can show you the text messages, and it's weird to me too. Don't worry.
Okay.
It's all Schadenfreude. It's all like,
Teddy,
bring that asshole back on.
Just suffering, just fear and loathing.
Teddy, since you brought your voice to the forefront, would you like to tell us how you're doing, and then we can kick this off?
I'm all right. Personally, I'm fine. I have 2 questions.
Okay.
Or rather, 2 statements to make. One, I love how you introduced Danko as a ne'er-do-well, because we're in the 18th century today. So terms like rake and scoundrel are very, very appropriate, and that's good to have. And of course, John, is your stalking / harassment disco related by any chance?
Yeah. There's a lot of cocaine and oral sex in public bathrooms involved.
Very good.
Yeah.
I thought that was until the 80s. I guess it's. I mean,
they didn't invent oral sex until 1980.
Well, no,
that's true.
It was the French, of course.
That is true.
Nightclub, public restroom oral sex was.
Oh yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you did
like airplane sex invented in the 1960s, and after a while they sorted out different locations.
I feel like you had to pare down from the biplane and the triplane to the monoplane and then you got to have an enclosed cockpit, and then
so was the Red Baron getting airhead or what?
Unless I'm talking, I like the cockpit's open, so
it's extremely important. A few notes for people, because I just spent a lot of time flying over the last couple of weeks.
In a biplane.
In a biplane, but never kiss someone on a monoplane, because that's how you get it.
Okay.
And always make sure the cockpit is closed. All right. These are the only bits of advice I have for the mile high club.
Just
I'm
like
sorry,
that,
guys.
Like that, Danko became a father.
Hell yeah. I've always wanted to be referred to as a rake one day. And now that I've said it, someone's going to call me a rake, and it won't mean anything because they're just doing it because I want it.
No, the rake has a very certain connotation to it. A rake is someone that expects a downfall. Mozart wrote a whole opera about it.
Right.
But Don Giovanni, it's one of his best. I think it's his best. But
I mean that the like double bass aria at the end is fucking incredible. Yeah.
Don Giovanni's a baritone, but that's good.
Yeah. You know,
the Commodore is a bass and his servant is a bass. So I guess it's more of a trio.
Double bass and baritone. Yeah.
This is now opera podcast hour.
Aren't baritones also like generally and perhaps wrongly, but considered like lumped in with the basses? Like absolutely a lot of the time they're referred to as absolutely like bass ones.
I think baritones are an incredibly versatile class of musicians, and I've attempted to become one for a long time, but unfortunately my tender young voice broke at the age of 18 while in Paris Island. So now I've just been a tenor forever. So
as a bass too, I would just like to say that I invite the baritones, though they don't deserve us, to join us in the basses.
Well, we can do both. We can go high, we can go low. It depends.
Yeah, there's a monoplane joke in here somewhere.
Sure.
This is
stereo.
Cured. If anyone ever had sex in here, we've been cured of it, I
think. My wizard beard is growing.
It's growing back. Yeah, very good.
I was actually clean shaven when we walked in here.
We are here to talk about Russian history, part 3.
Yeah.
Perfect.
We promised several times now to move away from Peter the Great, but apparently Teddy has one more Peter the Great fact.
Yeah.
Part.
It has now been long enough that I have completely forgotten where we stopped last time. But what I would like to talk about today is an era defined in the Russian Empire by palace coups, so much so that it is actually scholarly referred to as the Era of Palace Coups. And this situation would not be possible if it wasn't for one of the last great piece of legislation that Peter puts into action at the almost end of his life. Peter the Great dies in 1725, but in 1722 he enacts, again just by speaking it, but also setting it down on paper and signing it a law, because again, in an absolute monarchy, the word of the emperor is law. But he puts his pen to paper and sets the following thing down, which I will quote. For which reason we have resolved to make this statute, so it is always at the discretion of the ruling sovereign, whomever he desires, to determine the inheritance, and the determined one's privilege, if seeing any wantonness, shall be revoked, so that the children and our descendants do not become as enraged as above written, having this bond placed upon themselves. It's, again, complicated 18th century language. What essentially is saying is he has the right to dictate his successor, and his successor could be whoever he wants. This is really, really important for later. It's a useful tool that'll help us later. And because we recall that he tortured his own son to death. Right. So that kind of makes things a little bit inconvenient.
Why are you making
so it can't be him, right?
Yeah, his son, before his untimely demise, was able to have a kid, and they named the kid Peter, believe it or not.
So, a creative family.
So again, 3 years go by. Peter relatively quickly succumbs and dies. He had kidney stones most of his adult life. The man used to drink a lot. He used to eat a lot. He used to bang a lot. He used to go out sailing on ships a lot. Shit happens. And a bunch of kidney stones, and essentially he let his kidney stones untreated. Go ahead.
All the way up to the sailing, I was like, oh, he's talking about me.
Well, his first love was the sea, of course. He loved to sail. And again, this is pretty well documented. It got really bad when he was forced to wade out into the river and pull a boat laden with soldiers onto shore because it had broken from shore. I mean, obviously nobody knew how to fucking swim back then. So this dude is like 7 feet tall. He's huge. He walks out in the cold rivers of St. Petersburg, drags his fucking boat. Afterwards, he beats the shit out of half the soldiers on the boat for being stupid. And unfortunately, that complicates his nephrolithiasis. He gets uremia. And he very, very quickly essentially dies from an infection.
So he died from kicking too much ass.
Yeah. Essentially, yeah. Peter the Great
rules.
Was
I came
awful.
here to kick ass and die, and I'm all out of ass to kick.
I'm all out of ass. I'm all out of life. So yeah, again, he kicked a lot of ass. He was truly great in like the Alexander the Great, Caesar kind of way. He got a lot of shit done, but he could also be incredibly cruel, as we've seen. He at one point would just roll up with his horse and chop a fucking soldier to bits if he looked at him wrong. But again, he died. One of his last phrases before he essentially stopped being conscious was "give everything to nothing." He didn't finish the sentence. Yeah, so it's a very kind of
the treasure is in the
exact. Yeah, so that's a great parallel to Alexander the Great, though. Of course, is Alexander the Great's famous word was who do you live everything to, and the Greek word is either kratistos, which is the strongest, or some people tried to interpret it as krateros, one of his generals, Craterus. So that was a fun little tidbit there, but that was Alexander the Great's last word. Here, again, leave everything to, and he never designated a successor. So immediately 2 cliques formed. Immediately. He's married to his wife, Catherine the First, not the Great. This is Catherine the Second is Catherine the Great. This is just his wife. She has been described as essentially a really good housewife. Again, Peter the Great was the great. Catherine was she was a nice lady, but she was not
Catherine the Pleasant.
Yeah, she was
Catherine
pretty chill.
the Trad.
She was pretty chill. So immediately cliques start to form. Before he's even in the ground, you have a separation occur. We talked last time about the newly formed guard regiments, the Preobrazhensky and Semyonovsky. Obviously, those are hard, long fucking words. But what it essentially is this new formed Praetorian Guard will function throughout this time essentially as the Praetorian Guard. They will help place people on the throne. So yeah, this is the wrong Catherine. Or you're looking at Catherine II. Yeah, that's Catherine the Great. We haven't
Catherine Uno.
Yeah, Catherine the First, Russia. She was again. It could be a lot of homely looking ladies here, but there's some pleasant thickness to them if you really squint. But
you know what they say about Russian women.
Yeah,
half
of them aren't going to.
They're not even Russian. Yeah,
exactly. Right. So, for example, Catherine the First.
You know what they say about women?
Oh man.
Yikes. So Catherine the First was actually a captured Courland-ish princess.
Ooh.
He captured her in a siege. I mean, I don't believe historiographically there was any like weird shit. She was just one of the people stuck inside a siege, and this is 18th century, so they didn't like kill everyone. People surrendered, and he met her, and she was nobility, and they were like, "Oh, cool," So eventually they ended up together. So she's already not Russian to begin with, so there's some mostly old Muscovite nobility, so people that were really opposed to Peter the Great's reforms. They declare for the infant grandson, Peter II. And a lot of these guard officers and guard soldiers, guys that have done 20 years of war with Peter, have been in his household. They know his wife. They declare for the wife, Catherine. And of course, through sheer military power, their presence in St. Petersburg, guess who wins? It's Catherine. So Catherine is almost immediately declared by they did have a Senate. It was called the Governing Senate, and they had something called the Collegia, which is essentially the ministries. So people that held like the Minister of Foreign Affairs or the Chancellor or whatever. It was a lot of them were mostly supplementary roles. Again, the sovereignty was absolute. So Catherine, again, she's a nice lady. She lives for 2 more years, but she doesn't cause, there's no problems around. So During this time, of course, the guardsmen, of course, even the guardsmen, the soldiers at this time are nobles. So from private on down to colonel, these are all people of the blood. These guys learn how to play at politics. You start more cliques. The old favorite of Peter the Great, Menshikov, he starts to kind of accumulate power. But Catherine dies. And Peter the Great, or Peter the Great's grandson, Peter the Second, is 11 when he comes to power.
Hell yeah.
He has absolutely.
That's the prime age to be ruler of a kingdom, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, at one, depending on the age and depending on the situation, there's either a regency or there's not. But
when you got all those new like pubescent hormones raging around inside you.
Is it? I mean, 11. Do you guys? You sound like an early bloomer, dude. At age 11, all I wanted was.
I didn't mean to brag. I thought everyone did.
I was still firmly a child when I was 11. Personally, I don't know.
Well, some people, they wait until like 16, 17. It's fine, man.
Yeah. Well, what Peter II had an interest in was getting fucking shithouse wasted and going on hunts. So
11?
11, and he died when he was 14.
I mean, any 11-year-old with enough like power will die at the age of 14 from smallpox.
I knew this factoid, and that's why I popped in with that's the best time to be leader, because you got all 100%. These new hormones and
no, 100%. I'm not sure what his the extent of his sexual exploits were, but he had no real interest in ruling. So he left it to the Supreme Privy Council. That doesn't sound notorious and nefarious in any way.
No,
not at all. They're totally chill dudes.
What are they privy to?
What
stuff.
aren't they privy to?
Yeah. So he actually moves out of St. Petersburg at one point. He Peter II hunts. He does dumb shit. He drinks. He dies of smallpox, essentially having never taken an interest in politics. At this point, there's an interregnum because Peter the Great didn't leave any issue. There is Peter's daughter, Elizaveta. She's not of age yet. Nobody really considers her because everyone at this point is looking for, there it is, you got it. Nobody really considers her to be malleable enough. So what they go with,
not of age. She's not 10 yet.
Yeah, she's not malleable enough. So what they go with is Peter's niece, Anna Ioannovna. So that means she's Anna, the daughter of John, Peter's elder brother, who was actually co-czar with him when they were boys. But John, he was super mentally ill and he died pretty early. But he was able to have a daughter who, when Peter was alive, was married off to the Duke of Courland. So Courland is modern day Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, right around there. It is a German nation, tiny little state, essentially by the end of Peter the Great's realm as like a Russian satellite. But she's married off, and the story goes that she's 17, the Duke of Courland is 17. They come over to Russia, they get married. And at the wedding celebration, the Duke of Courland, who's of course this nice young German boy, has this stupid fucking idea of trying to go drink for drink with Peter the Great.
Son of a bitch.
The Duke of Courland dies.
Yeah.
He dies. Some say because on the trip back. Some say as a complication of alcohol. Some say as because of got too cold when he was leaving. But
some people say it was all the stab wounds.
No, they were pretty chill about it. But he tried to go drink for drink with Peter the Great. That did not end well for him. So Anna remains alone. Immediately there start to be palace intrigues. Rakes and various ne'er-do-wells travel to her court because she's a widow, and try to have intrigues and try to get married to her. She again, she's not the greatest looking lady. So she falls victim to several of these. I think it was remember August the Strong, the Polish king from way back in the day?
Yeah.
His bastard son, one of his like 90 bastard children, decides to try to have an affair with Anna and succeeds almost to a point that she decides to marry him. But then, of course, it's a huge scandal, and Catherine I does not permit her to do this. And so eventually, this is all while Peter's still alive, or Catherine I is still alive. But eventually, they get her to come over because she seems to be malleable. Again, she's a young widow. You'll see what her tastes are like in just a little bit. She has pretty simple tastes. She appears to be easily malleable. So as soon as she shows up, Anna Ivanovna, the nobility immediately try to introduce a constitutional monarchy. Here's a weak, malleable lady. Let's limit her fucking power. So they present her with something called the conditions, which gives this Supreme Privy Council control over war, peace, and taxation. And essentially, without those three things, a monarch's not going to be able to do much. So she agrees, and they place her on the throne. But very immediately, soon after that, cliques start to play off one another again. You have some older Muscovite nobility that starts to show its ugly head. They convince her that, this is an infringement upon your absolute power. Your uncle Peter would not have liked this. They essentially strong-armed you into this, and she takes his document and she rips it up in front of people. And again, because she has the guardsman's support, nothing really happens to her. And remember when we talked about, I think both times actually, is when Peter and his father Alexei brings a bunch of Germans over, brings a bunch of foreigners over to Russia. Well, now a lot of these Germans, having been paid really well due to their specialties under Peter, are in positions of power. So now you start forming German centered forms of power. Almost, you have Germans holding high position, and non-Russians holding high positions. Oh, there was 362 or 382 children. The dude got around.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Augustus was chilled.
He was chill. Those womanizers.
Bro, that's a birthday for every day of the year. That's rough.
Yeah.
That's like, chill dude. That's like King Siam numbers, right? Like, holy shit.
Also, could you scroll up to pretty much the top, because there was a hilarious fact up on the main space on the right, towards the top of the article. It's about his burial. Yeah, down a little bit. And right under died. Burial, Dresden, his heart is buried, and Krakow, his body is buried.
Why? Okay. Who paid attention last time? Why is that? Where's Dresden located? Saxony. Where's Krakow located?
That's Poland.
Why? His heart is in Saxony because he is the Duke of Saxony first. He's the Duke of Saxony first, and he is the elect king of Poland.
My heart belongs to Saxony.
That's right. Remember that he fought as the king of, or the Duke of Saxony first. He never declared war as Poland. That was the weird shit during the Great Northern War.
That fucking rules.
Yeah, dude, no fucks.
So and yet, 365 kids and your body's strewn out all over the place because you're just
it's very 18th century. Yeah, I love it.
Where were all of his mistresses from? Because did they
everywhere?
Yes, yes.
Just a little bit of his dick.
Well, if we want to get into Poland at the time, Poland again, we have this interesting situation where Poland is an elective monarchy, and with a very, very high percentage of nobility. Poland has a lot of nobility, and because it has a lot of nobility, all that nobility can't really share land. So you have a bunch of poor fucking nobility. Like they have all these names to their name, but not much else. So yeah, you have these poor noble women throwing themselves at the king in the sense that, hey, that's my ticket out of here, like. So yeah, from an economic standpoint, it completely makes sense. I mean, it's in the horrific, barbaric, fucking kind of 18th century, I don't know, going back to 17th century kind of way.
I'd fuck Joe Biden for money.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't for money? Yeah. Hell, I'd do it for political power.
Into finishing school.
I'd do it for political power. Yeah,
I would sow Joe Biden's seed across the United States just to keep the union intact.
Yeah.
It's like the fucked up version of Johnny Appleseed or something.
Oh my god.
Joey Biden seed.
Danko, yeah, Danko grape seed. Jesus Christ.
Let's get back to Russian history.
Oh my god. Yeah, let's get to a little bit more of a PG topic here and talk about Anna's orgies. Holy shit.
Okay.
So
orgies, you say.
So John, type in Anna of Russia. This is the lady we're talking about. You'll see she's a good looking lady.
Ice Castle.
Yeah, that's the one. She high quality corset though.
Oh,
high quality.
Yeah. And look at that lazy eye.
Look at that.
It's pretty bad when the painter puts the lazy eye in.
Yeah.
Well, it's all about
like you can't do it. Like you can't do anything about it. You know.
Imagine being that painter though, and like this probably happened because the previous painter ended up eschewing it, and then she's just like, "Why the fuck didn't you include my sty? Is there something wrong with my sty?"
Do you think my sty is ugly?
Of course. Remember, guys, this lady is getting all the best looking dudes throwing themselves at her too. So
you know what?
all of the amazing fucking hot nobility is all about it. Well, some not so hot, but her favorite is a guy named Byron, not with a Y, but with an I. He's a German.
Ew.
So I don't know if it's Biron or I'm not really sure. I never learned how to pronounce his name. That's her favorite.
Let's also be clear, like in a kind of a feminist sense here. All the men are also ugly.
100%. No, everyone's ugly. Everyone is ass ugly during this time. If you look up Elizabeth Woodville, who was I think Edward IV wife, or he married for love. This was in the Wars of the Roses in England. She was considered to be the fucking beauty of the land. So look up Elizabeth Woodville and see what she looks like. She was considered to be the best looking woman ever, like ever in England, because she was like, I'm not sure if she was a peasant, but she was like a commoner, and he married her, and it caused horrible wars. But she was considered to be a beauty.
She wasn't an inbred monster.
Yeah,
that's the problem with the nobility, is they've been inbreeding this whole time, and so
well, you can't transmit power if you don't marry someone of your equal rank. That's how that works.
Which is the
so
only
a king
reason
has to
I
marry
get with somebody is to transmit my power.
Exactly. I mean, you can't keep your lands. How else are you expected to be a king if you don't marry someone of royal blood? What the fuck is that all about?
Yeah.
There's my boy Eddie on the far left. That's Eddie the Fourth. Eddie, what's his name? That's him right there. Beautiful. The one with the little beret. Yeah, that's my boy. He married her for love.
That's the fucking guy from Shrek.
Yeah.
So
that's Edward Farquaad.
It's interesting how this works.
Yeah, Farquaad. Thank you.
Yeah, it's Edward Farquaad.
Because he married her for love. She clearly married him for money and power.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the first trophy one?
I know that guy.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like that's her because he needs somebody to cut his steak for him.
It appears
because he can't.
I've misplaced my lower jaw today. Yeah. No, that's
that
a
guy's
whole
been on
other-
4chan.
we can do a whole series on the Wars of the Roses and the 100 Years' War after all this shit if you want. But I don't know how much it applies to leftist politics, or does it? Because in the aftermath of the Black Death, there was a huge amount of upward social mobility because people straight up died. So people could move, and serfdom effectively in England ended after the Black Death. Because
gone over a lot of that stuff in our between this and Bring Down the Grindhouse, our witch episodes begin with those changes after the Black Death.
Yeah.
Yep.
No.
Because the people needed people to work the land, so they were like, "Hey, maybe we can't bind you to land and need to pay you a wage now."
Also, the first time that there was any kind of increase in wages.
Post-pandemic, we gonna be all right, but maybe not.
Probably not.
They did have the Little Ice Age, but this is actually the early 18th century. That's actually the Little Ice Age. Oh, the Princes in the Tower. There you go. We all know what happened to them. Anyway,
yes.
Are they the Princes in the Tower? They look, yeah, they actually look more like cavaliers. This is like a 17th century painting because they look like they have cavalier style haircuts from the English Civil War.
Oh, cuties.
Yeah, well, you know that old Richard IV. Richard IV has been exonerated, by the way, or Richard III.
When they're like, I want to have bangs again.
Yeah. And as soon as they get it, they're like, oh no.
Why did I have that meltdown?
Yeah.
They do have like rural 90s mom's haircut.
Yeah. Rural 90s mom. What is it? Pantaloon vibes. I'm sorry, those are tights. Excuse me. Pantaloons are the exact opposite. They're frilled. Those are tights. Alrighty. Where were we? I don't even remember where we were.
Oh man. Maybe we should bring on someone that knows their pants.
Somewhere in Russia.
Yeah.
Right. Somewhere in Russia.
Somewhere in Russia. Yeah.
You had mentioned Anna's orgies and then
yes,
orgies. So
back to the orgy.
That was to bring the focus back. Bring the focus back. So not so much.
Oh my God.
I don't know why I thought like art would come up.
And we're out. That's
gonna have to be censored. I'm gonna write that timestamp.
I don't know why I thought like Renaissance parody art would like come up, like Marie Antoinette blowing a horse, you know, like something classy.
So good. It was the Swiss Guard, I think. It was.
It's actually Catherine.
Leave it up. I refuse to censor this podcast. That's going straight up onto YouTube.
YouTube, yeah. We'll see if they catch it. Again, how long is this going to be? Let's see if they catch it.
Somebody's going to catch it.
only 0.01% of this podcast is hardcore porn.
The listener is going to be very upset.
Oh yeah. Sorry, listener, you missed out all the cum.
Yeah. Yikes. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Maybe we don't click on the orgy links anymore.
Maybe we don't.
We probably should have had safe search on.
I think typing in the word orgy was actually where we went wrong.
This is history, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we can talk about erotica another time. Again, I just because I'm Russian doesn't mean that's my entire base of knowledge, but it'd be like that on occasion. All right.
Yes.
So
please continue.
Man,
public opinion. That's true.
Sorry.
Funny looking. So Anna essentially loves to spill the tea on everyone around her. She is described as being a very, very gregarious woman. She, wants to hear the latest gossip. She has a bunch of like fools and dwarves and like just crazy shit around her, like very kind of medieval style, almost kind of a regression. Yeah, very kind of like that, very bang bang in your face. Again, I'm not sure if there were actual orgies. I just wanted to bring us back. But there is a recorded instance of her marrying her fool with one of her ladies in waiting and making them stay for their honeymoon or wedding night in a mansion built of ice where they nearly froze to death, of course. But of course, this is this is actually the first recorded time where they started building these ice palaces in St. Petersburg, and it's a big tradition in terms of about what some of the first times they did it. It was essentially for the Raffles, and yeah. So she made second from the right, top row. That's the painting of it. No, I guess the other one. Sorry, the farther from the right. There's a picture. Yeah, a picture of her and her fucking dumbasses, and there they are, the happily married couple freezing to death. It's a great picture.
Rules.
Great picture.
It's very metal.
Yeah. What's the resolution on that? Yeah. So you'll see Anna with her dwarves, and then there's the happily married couple.
John has a quick note. Instead of opening up the image in the new tab from Google Images, open up the link in a new tab.
Oh. So what are you doing this weekend? Oh, well, I and my dwarves and my fool-ass husband are going to go die in the ice castle.
Yeah, it's good time. I mean, this is pretty common shit. I mean, even we're talking about a time when serfdom is crystallized, serfdom is made worse during Peter the Great's time, and these nobles can do with their serfs essentially as they wish. You go stand on your head, you sing for me until you lose your voice, you know, essentially go fuck that horse, or like it's whatever, like it's
horse
shit like
fucking in this episode.
Yeah,
there's a Whitest Kids You Know sketch where there's this bored king, and he's sitting on his throne, and he tells the court jester to squeeze his penis really hard. not the king's penis,
like his own.
The jester's own penis.
Not mine.
Like, do that thing where you squeeze the tip of your dick really hard.
Oh Jesus!
And that's what I would be as a ruler at this time. Yeah,
we've all been there.
Yeah, we've all been there. Exactly. You know, we're either Peter II with our smallpox and hunting, or we're Anna Ivanovna with the ice palace. I mean, I don't think there's really an in between. It's actually wonderful. I mean, if we want to get all Lacanian about it, it's a wonderful kind of window into the human mind, as what happens when you have completely unlimited power. You do shit like this.
Yeah, you're always chasing that little object that you can never get, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Again, horrific times for some, but at the same time, it is the 18th century, so it is a time of courtly manners. Everyone's very polite, and little by little, the quality of life in the entirety of Europe, including in Russia, rises. Something like 20 years are gained on life expectancy throughout Europe during this time. From the 17th to the 18th century, new means of cultivating grain, rye, wheat, different means of field melioration, triple fields from double. In Russia, it's from double fields to triple fields. Everywhere else in Western Europe, it's from triple field to 4-field crop rotation. Again, sciences start to become a thing. We're talking about the beginning of the Enlightenment, and it's not just in this. Again, people, casual observers, like to note that. Or you know, people that had to learn about the Enlightenment, it was all just a bunch of white dudes in wigs talking about philosophy and shit. A lot of it was very, very practical science, and the most practical of sciences, of course, is agronomy. And you have increases in crop yields, and something as simple as increases in crop yields, and the introduction of well, this is more in the medieval ages, but closer to, you know, Renaissance era, the introduction of a steel plow, as opposed to, for example, a wooden plow. Just being able to break the earth quicker, being able to get the harvest fast. It's an essential part of what makes 95% of the population be able to live to see sunrise. And that has an imprint in the overall population gain of Europe. It has an imprint on changing mores and norms, and this reflects in both court behavior, in politics, and in warfare. Whereas back in medieval times, you relied on nobility and retainers and that sort of stuff. You have the centralization of power in absolute monarchs that rely on professional soldiery. Well, in the 18th century, after this horrible crisis of the 17th century with the 30 Years' War and the English Civil War, and these brutal, almost essentially kind of similar to, we had our own 30 Years' War between Polish-Lithuania, again, Poland, and Muscovy. Again, horrible, destructive wars. You have this kind of shift in perspective and thinking of maybe we want to preserve our people. Maybe we want to have our people live more, provide us with more, you know, commercialization, and it applies to combat as well, wherein you rely on professional armies and they're essentially mercenaries. And you pay them well, you feed them well, you make sure that there's always a nice supply train. They don't march too long. They have nice fucking tents to camp in. They have nice warm food waiting for them everywhere. This is an essential part of 18th century combat. When we start getting into linear tactics and linear methods of warfare, everyone in America is always like, oh, why the hell would they stand in lines and shoot at each other? There's a very concrete methodology behind it, both in the implementation of firelocks and muskets and how ballistically that works, the installation of discipline in order to make it effective, and also what it takes, the amount of discipline it takes to make an army function. But a lot of it is also about preserving your forces. So anybody that's ever played a total war game set in the 18th century, anytime you fight a battle on open ground, that's not right. Most warfare in the 18th century was siege warfare. but not in the castle kind of situation of the medieval ages. Again, by the high Middle Ages, late Middle Ages, we had cannon, so there's no need for crazy trebuchets and sitting out. But again, we have a Vauban type fortifications, these huge rings of star forts. If you want to look up star forts or Vauban, Vauban, that's the guy that invented them. They're more earthworks than anything, and they're again highly scientific instead of just a keep with some towers. You're talking earthworks, several layers of rivelins, and sloping fucking ground. Yeah, there you go. The bottom left one. That's a great one right there. These star forts. Yeah, you see these siege fortifications that are geometric in shape, very Enlightenment, very mathematics, and to take them would take a very specific kind of fucking warfare. Oftentimes you needed, a concrete, you needed contravallation, meaning you make your own wall around it. Then you pound a specific section of wall. And then because you're all gentlemen with feathers on your hats, as soon as you break down the wall, then the commandant of the fortress comes out with his feather hat. He takes a bow. He says that, the city is yours, sir, because you want to avoid horrible casualties, and they surrender and everybody's happy. Every time you see mass land combat, like big pitched battles, something has gone wrong. And you'll see this throughout the 18th century as we talk about, because again, all these coups that we've seen and that we will continue to see in Russia are merely, they don't exist by themselves. Again, history in general, and in this case, we're talking Western, Eastern European history, is very, very tightly bound together during the 18th century. You have absolute monarchies already starting to have balances of power. You have contrapositioning chains of alliances in the wake of the 30 Years' War, when it was established that a state, meaning we always get into the weeds here with nations versus states, but a state, meaning a country, is a thing, as opposed to just a collection of a lord's personal domain. So you have these states that have borders that have, they're usually close together, as opposed to, like the Habsburg monarchy, who had shit in Liechtenstein. The Habsburgs started off in Liechtenstein. So the castle Liechtenstein, that's the Habsburgs' original castle. It's really neat. And then they had, they had land in Burgundy somewhere, and then they had land in the Netherlands, and they had land in Austria, and they had lands. So this kind of old style, medieval style rule. I love the fucking Minecraft shit.
Yeah, I was waiting for him to click on the Minecraft one.
Minecraft people will come up with fucking anything, and some people put in so much work into that shit. Oh, yeah. I love it. Those are accurate fucking Vauban. Those are probably recreations of real places. If I was willing to fucking, I'd be willing to bet those are recreations of actual locations, and they have done. God, that looks beautiful, amazing. But yeah. So again, absolute monarchy implies developing logistics, being able to pay and feed armies much larger than before. Again, during the medieval ages, the largest thing was the largest fucking pitched battles were fought probably between Mongols and like the First Crusade was a huge fucking peasant movement. And even then, still, I think it was a max of like 50,000 men. That was unheard of in medieval times. We talked about sizes of cities during medieval times, right?
Before that, it was like Saruman, right? Versus
10,000. Yeah, 10,000 would be an incredible army, incredible fucking size. Now we're talking about standing armies of 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000. And that's kind of it's an acceptable thing. You're able to feed, clothe, provide for, house, etc. Billet. This will be a fun tool that'll help us later in the American Revolution. You're able to quarter soldiers in people's homes. That's totally fine. Just give them a piece of paper and say, "Hey, I'm here now. Feed us." But yeah, logistics lead to a different kind of war. While this shit is happening in the background, you have during the Great Northern War, you have the War of the Spanish Succession. France with Louis XIV, the Sun King, is trying to put his family member, I don't believe it was his son, I think it was maybe his nephew. He's trying to put his nephew on the Spanish throne. The union of France and Spain into one monarchy would destabilize all of Europe completely, permanently, forever, and make it a hyperpower at this time, essentially. Consider Spain with all her colonies, France with all her colonies. France with all her population, Spain with all her population. It is a hyperpower that cannot become to pass. The Holy Roman Empire unites against them. A bunch of different countries, they fight. England, of course, goes to fight France because fuck France, and it's England. So again, so this is so the Great Northern War occurs in the shade of, or not in the shade, but in the same time period as the War of the Spanish Succession. They influence each other. In the end, by the way, Louis XIV is able to put his family member on the throne, but he has to renounce all claims onto Spain. So that's why in France you had the Bourbons, and in Spanish you now have the Bourbon dynasty. And of course, I think even the modern, like Juan Carlos, he's a Bourbon. So I mean, they've come down since then. So they're the French Bourbons. If you go down all the monarchies extant and whatever, they're not actually from where they are. So again, we talked about, did I talk about Bernadotte in Sweden? He's from France. So all the Bernadottes in Sweden are from France. The current English monarchy, the Windsors, are the House of Hanover. They're Germans. The Bourbons are, of course, French. The Romanovs, you will see. Peter II, the kid that died at 14, he's actually the last male in the line of Romanovs. Ever since then, the Romanovs aren't really Romanovs. So they become mostly Germans or whatever.
They're again, Fomanovs.
There you go. Well, and again, of course, the Romanovs come into power as the result of a ruse. Anyway, they were kind of traitors during the Polish-Lithuanian Wars, and they just knew when to jump off. And the first Romanov kings, daddy was the patriarch. That's like the Orthodox Pope. I'm sure that didn't have any influence at all, But yeah. So I guess what I'm trying to get at with this little background is we're talking about Anna and how she had funny fucking dwarfs and shit at her throne, but at the same time, this woman wielded a huge amount of power, was influential directly and indirectly in a variety of courts throughout Europe. What she did reflected across the land, and therefore, what starts to happen in the 18th century is permanent embassies. This is, again, a development partially of the Enlightenment, partially as kind of a return of classical relations. You have, obviously, in ancient times, you have, is that the current patriarch? His name's
the current
Kirill.
Daddy?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
Daddy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this. They recently had the wedding at the St. Petersburg in the Isakivsky Cathedral in St. Petersburg. They recently had the Romanovs get married, or it was the last Tsar's nephew or cousin, Kirill. He ran away, of course, during the revolution. He then got married morganatically, means he got married to essentially not a commoner, but he married to some noble from Georgia, I think. And of course, the Bagrationi were kings of Georgia back in the day. Not that Georgia. But
I wasn't going to make the joke. I was trying so hard.
Yeah. So he got married to them. So that immediately disqualifies him from succession, but he said that, whatever. So then they have a daughter, and this daughter has a son. But by the time they're in Spain, and a lot of these guys were super on board with fascism, actually, at the time. Some of these guys are super cool about financing Nazis, and then eventually they flee to Spain. And if anybody knows anything about Spain, who was in charge of Spain during the World War II, and then was like in charge of Spain for a lot longer, until like 1975, 76? Who was in charge of Spain back then? It was Franco.
Yeah,
it was Francisco Franco, literally a fascist. So again, these guys a lot of these people who have never been to Russia, they barely speak Russian, all of a sudden decide to have a wedding in the Isakivsky Sobor, the main cathedral or whatever, which technically is available to be rented out publicly. You're allowed to rent it out, but they had the police guarding it, and then they were able to go to some sort of palace and have their thing there, and that's a protected state fucking asset. So again, they're clearly not private individuals, and all this shit was done at the behest of someone else, but that's a whole other story. Yeah, again, Russia is keeling over in terms of rightist kind of thought right now. So we'll definitely get into that when we talk about Mr. Dugan.
Yeah,
and his
my boy.
friends. We're not getting there for a while, but we will get there eventually. But
Doogie House.
a lot of Dugan gets into a lot of stuff and a lot of this Eurasian stuff, and he's in a way he's a spiritual successor to I'm blanking on the name, but there was a guy during the Soviet Union who was a great adherent, and his theory essentially boiled down to when the sun hits you just right, you become passionate, and when you're passionary, you become a superior race. And then Eurasia, the sun just hits you just right, and things are a-okay. And that's the extent of his science. It's great. It's
fucking
great
love
stuff.
that.
It's amazing. And again, yeah. No, it's literally like that, but it's fascism by another name.
Yeah.
And we'll get all into that shit. We'll get all into how the Russian
Get
Federation.
all up in it.
The Russian Federation is not supposed to have an ideology. It's written into the Constitution that the Russian Federation is a non-ideological state. It's like Article 1.
That's a real thing.
Yeah.
That
sounds like an ideology.
Yeah, it's the third way. We all know. Remember what we remember. Well, no, his is the fourth. His
Right.
Dugan's all about the political, fourth political theory.
Yeah.
Which did you ever get to read that, or was it censored away? They pulled it from a lot of bookshelves here, but of course, through means you can still get it.
Z-lib.
Yeah, dude, all day, all fucking day.
I don't know what I just said. I just blanked out.
Steal books. Knowledge should be free. But
right.
Where was I? Yeah, so we all know what the third way is, and that's so anybody. We just a couple months ago we listened to Evita, or we watched Evita with Madonna, the famous Latina. And yeah, Peronism is all about third way fucking populism. It's great stuff. Good stuff. Bringing it back.
Yes. Do all Russian Orthodox priests look like necromancers?
Some do. I mean, they're encouraged to grow beards.
Well, no,
is,
I mean, like,
this
of this outfit are amazing.
No, it gets more metal.
Really?
What we have is the white clergy and the black clergy. And again, of course, the black clergy are essentially monks. And yes, to become the patriarch, you have to be a monk. So a lot of this black clergy, yeah, there it is. It gets pretty metal. Yeah, so type in Russian monks, it'll come up. There's some gangster shit that they do. But yeah, again, Russian Orthodoxy, priests are allowed to marry.
Oh wow!
So yeah, that's been the case forever. They've been able to marry. Yeah, some of this
all of these
shit,
people are Dugan. They're all Dugan.
Well,
Dugan just has clones everywhere.
Dugan is something he calls him. The movement is called Rodnavera, which is kind of this weird blend of old believer Orthodox Christianity, which we can get into this episode because Peter told him to fuck off. So essentially Christian syncretism, or frankly something that's existed since the dawn of all religions, is once you get a religion, it gets popular, it goes to insular communities, it becomes syncretized. So old believer faiths were essentially that which in Russia is something that followed the old order. So meaning making the sign of the cross with 2 fingers as opposed to 3 fingers, which is practiced by the Russian Orthodoxy now. Now I know that in Catholicism it's 2 fingers, but it's with your left hand. In Orthodoxy it's with your right hand, 3 fingers together. But the old believers do it with 2, and it's because the Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, that's 3, and the 2 is the 2. I forget the Greek term for it, but it's because Jesus was both man and God. So you have the human hand, and you have the symbology of 3 of the Trinity, 2 man and God, and then the old believers just had it reversed. But because they had their shit reversed, all their cultural syncretism went away because Peter, again, through Westernization, but in this case from Byzantium, he again took, because, the Turks have Constantinople, but there's still a bishop, the Archbishop of Patriarch of Constantinople. So he takes from it the Julian calendar. Again, before Peter, the Russians were still using the old, like it's the year 5000 calendar, like from Anno Mundi, I think it was called. So he adopted the Julian calendar in the year 1700. Whereas the rest of the world was adopting the Gregorian calendar during this time. So we're just a hop, skip, and a jump behind everybody, as always. Which is why you will see dates in the Russian Empire written 12 or 13 days behind the Gregorian calendar, because we're following the Julian calendar. It does not, it doesn't have leap years or something. Again, I can't. So when we come to very, very famous dates like Borodino, is 28th of August, but it's 7th September by the new style. The Great October Revolution occurs on 7th November, 25th of October.
Somebody should.
So as soon as the fucking tankies come to power, they immediately rejoin the modern world. They're like, this is dumb. We're going to take away like 5 fucking letters that nobody ever uses. We're going to simplify the language. We're going to teach everyone how to read, which they did amazingly well. In the 20s, they had committees for the elimination of illiteracy. And motherfuckers would just walk. Motherfuckers would walk into your house and teach your ass to read. And you better fucking learn. Just read,
kicking your door with a gun.
Yeah. Fucking Soviet, Cheka agents with fucking leather jackets and revolvers. Fucking read. But no, it was obviously not like that. It was pretty well done. Just like they succeeded in electrifying most of the Soviet Union by the time. By the time Stalin came to power,
electrify that many people. This is cruel.
It just they electrified the people, and then we'll get to the Soviet Union. God.
Oh yeah, my favorite haircut.
Where were we?
I don't know because how John is just going down Wikipedia like
fuck yeah, dude. Let's do this.
You know what? Let's
like talk about how the Dominican monks invented champagne. Yeah,
it's fuck. I just forgot the name of the thing. Never mind. My joke died in my head. Now it's rotting.
Oh, buddy. Anyway, the listeners shut off by now, so we can really talk about whatever we want.
They're asleep.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. We got to go back.
That's what podcasts are for.
Right. Yeah. Sleeping.
Yeah.
It's fun because I have I've been presenting. Well, everything I've talked about has so far been correct. I just we've been going and. First,
you haven't just been lying to us.
Yeah, I'd like to hope not. I mean, there's always stuff I'm missing because I'm not a professionally trained historian and I don't get paid to do this. Although I would love to do this. I'm not an expert.
Paying you. Come on, man.
Oh, that's true, right? Yeah, blowjobs don't count.
We're all very well paid here.
Yeah,
it's true. And who are we paid?
That Patreon's going wild, and then the
who are we?
Fracking billionaires.
Yeah, the CIA paychecks coming out.
Let's get back to Russian history for a little
bit. Gotcha. Okay, so Anna, let's bring it back. Anna had gout.
Damn, we're still on.
Severe gout. Boy, did she suffer from gout, dude.
You can see it going up her neck.
Shit hurt a lot.
I was gonna say, it looked. I didn't want to say this like the first time we looked at her picture, but it looks like she has like some. Like goiter.
She had some pretty severe gout. So she has attacks of gout, eventually some sort of, again, I'm not really sure, but eventually she takes a turn for the worse. This is the year 1740. She uses Peter's prerogative of selecting whoever she wants as her successor. And for some time, obviously, she ruled for 10 years from 1730 to 1740. She started grooming her niece. Again, it's a lot of nieces, but her niece, she started grooming for power. Her niece, another Anna, this time Anna Leopoldovna, meaning she's the daughter of Leopold. She's half German at this point. So Anna of Russia's niece, Anna Leopoldovna, is the daughter of Anna's sister and a German prince. And then she marries a German prince, the Prince of Brunswick, or the Duke of Brunswick. So now they have a kid whose name is Ivan, of course. This is Ivan VI, and he's 3/4 German. So Anna, at this point on her dying bed, this was done to the T's. She is able to produce a will. She's able to have witnesses. She signs the documents. She's like, this is who this shit's going to. Yeah, there's the baby. He's a baby. He's a little one.
He's a baby.
Dumbass kid. Click on that one that's like middle right.
His fate is actually very sad. We'll get to it. Yeah.
What? His fate is sad?
He's a sad
Not
boy.
this ugly bastard. No way.
Oh,
not this Russian.
Maybe that was his. Not this little German boy.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. His fate was unfortunately that he was not a bastard. If a bastard would have been easy, but he was not.
That was your first mistake.
Yeah,
not being born a bastard.
Your first mistake was being born legitimate, kid.
You son of a bitch. So Anna kicks off her boots. She rolls up her little fucking tights, and she's gone from this mortal coil. In the year 1740.
That's not where I thought you were going with
the infant Ivan VI is declared.
It's right, a baby.
That baby is atrocious.
Baby.
Incredible.
Yeah. Again, people were just embrace tradition, abandon modernity. Yeah. Here we are.
Just
abandon. Yeah. Embrace fucking Baroque babies.
Revolt against the modern world with that baby.
Or fucking
so
fat,
Ivan.
God, it's a ghost baby.
Baroque babies.
All right.
You take him and put him in any Baroque painting as a cherub, and he'll be good.
You know what I have to say about art then and art now, right? Is that you're not
a presentist, are you?
No. Well, so I just think if it's not Baroque, don't fix it.
Please.
Hey, Deebs. Hey, Mike.
Yeah, I'm gonna mute
Mike,
him.
Can you ban him?
Yeah.
Can you shadow ban his ass? All right.
Shadow banned on a podcast.
Unfortunately, we do have a contract, so I have to keep him on.
That's true. Otherwise, you guys don't get paid. I forgot.
Yeah, we're all on HR.
Yeah.
Oh no.
They formed a union a couple episodes ago.
Good. Fuck yeah. That's the way.
It's like a police union.
Oh no.
Yeah, where they're allowed to do whatever they want. Like
we just get away with crimes.
It's like the New Jersey Teamsters kind of union. Okay, cool. Gotcha. So Ivan is an infant. So his mother, Anna Leopoldovna, Anna Ioannovna's niece, is essentially his regent. She has no interest. Again, despite the fact that she's been groomed, she feels out of her depth. She barely speaks any Russian. She feels out of her depth. She leaves the running of the country essentially to the chancellor, whose name is Minich, and Osterman. So we have these again. What kind of names are these? These are German names. These are Germans in charge at the highest positions of power. This presents a problem to everyone from the common folk. Again, people are not stupid. People are serfs, and people are often illiterate, but they kind of have a sense of what's going on. And people have this shitty kind of proto-nationalistic thing of like, hey, Germans are in charge, not Russians. What's going on? And in the background of all of this, we recall Peter the Great's daughter, Elizabeth, is still alive. She's still growing. Elizabeth Petrovna. Of course, Russian patronymic names are, you have your first name, and your middle name is your father's name. What did you just Google? I can't. It's too
He's
small.
looking up like Germany and Russia conspiracy theories.
Oh,
Germany rules Russia. Also,
did you know that Germany actually beat Russia in World War II? Whoops. Anyway, because
Teddy,
Russia did not participate. What's up?
You mentioned this, and I think that we need to harp on it again, as we have been for the last 2 episodes. But the primary lesson for all of these are that people throughout history, people are not stupid.
Yes.
Well, I mean, you look at
people are not actually stupid.
You look at who's surviving all of these moments, and it's not the people in charge.
Yes.
Yeah, by and large. Yeah.
That's true. If I can
all the
actually
people in charge are like doing weird shit, fucking each other when they're like loosely related,
dying in ice castles with
not knowing the language of the land that they're in.
Well, Catherine the Great will come in and fix all that because she does in fact learn. But there was a historian, I forget the name, but he describes this period, I think, really succinctly with this phrase, is that this is, in fact, obviously this is an absolute monarchy at this time, but the Era of Palace Coups is described as an era of despotism limited only by regicide. I think it's a perfect little fucking encapsulation of this period. Because yeah, you have absolute power at the very top. But do you really have absolute power? Can you stop yourself from fucking getting throttled in your sleep? No. So again, Anna Leopoldova doesn't want power. You have these Germans that are in charge. Osterman eventually forces Metternich out. But here come the guards again. This Praetorian Guard, the Preobrazhenцы and the Semyonovцы. Ooh, there's Menshikov. This is a painting of Alexander Menshikov, Peter's favorite. He was the field marshal of Russia's armies in the Great Northern War. He was the richest noble during the entirety of Peter the Great's tenure. Peter the Great dies, not 5 years go by, and he's exiled to Siberia. This is Alexander Menshikov at the end of his life, somewhere in fucking Siberia with his family. The story goes he
looks like a ghost.
Yeah, like I was like, you got one goddaughter.
That's because it's cold. But the story goes the story goes he left his personal regiment, go to winter quarters, and the very next day he was arrested. And the story goes that he left St. Petersburg with 30 carriages laden with shit and servants and all sorts of things. And in Siberia, he arrived in one carriage with just his family and him driving it. And he dies. It got cold. But yeah, this is how Alexander Menshikov, again, the premier fucking nobleman of his time.
His daughter's just got like a necklace of ears, like a hot topic belt.
This is a really good illustration. I love how you found that, John. It's fucking fortuitous shit. This is a great example of the cost of playing this palace shit, because he attempted to have his daughter, probably one of the ladies pictured in this picture, to get married to Peter II. He schemed to have his daughter marry Peter II. Well, Peter wasn't really having that shit. And then as soon as Anna came to power, she didn't like that either. And you have a bunch of these nobility. Some of them try to scheme to get married again. And some of them end up fucking getting their heads chopped off, because that's the game, dude. You play it, that's what happens. And at the same time, again, I'm talking some of the peasantry, they're living better lives. So yeah, it just depends.
Is the King of Russia part of the clergy at this point?
No.
Or is he ever?
Never. That's never been the case. Okay. Again, if we recall back, Rus was formed by Vikings. The story goes that the Russians reached out and asked a Viking prince to come rule them. That's a folklore story. What happened was the Viking prince showed up and fucking took charge and like conquered shit, and members of his war band became his first nobility. And yeah, that's how Rurik, the very first Russian czar, or knyaz at the time. I mean, the czar was Ivan the Great declared himself czar, and that was in the fucking 15th century. So yes, Russia is a combination of Mongols, Vikings, etc. It's that's where our fucking shit comes from.
Melting pot.
And Scythians, of course, Scythians, the old Roman barbarians.
That's just where the dopest name.
Yeah. But what was I going to say? I was going to bring it back to, yes, the guards, the Preobrazhensky Guard. I'm trying to actually do some I'm trying to get a uniform of theirs. I'm trying to do some reenactment. Because I'm a fucking nerd. I was gonna say
one day.
Hell yeah, dude! I'm about
a child of yours is going to like go through like I don't know, your old belongings, and like they'll be the equivalent
and
of, like,
find a tri-corner hat. I was like, how old were you? Anyway, so yeah,
probably just think you're racist or something at that point.
Well, no, that's
yeah.
Exactly
he's just
an
old
like,
because because in America, reenactment means crypto-fash, because you're probably doing some weird Confederate shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is why I'm explicitly trying not to do it. The American Civil War is boring to me. From a historiographical standpoint, the American Civil War is merely
Teddy, I didn't realize that the liberation of black slaves was so boring to you.
What it is essentially, I'm going to ignore the challenge, and it is essentially the solving of the problems, the unresolved issues of the American Revolution. So
it's also fucking funny. Like that war is full of such hysterical, like mistakes
but to me,
and shit.
Because
it's so good.
It's just people pissing their pants the whole time.
Because it's so popular in America, I kind of avoid because it's so ubiquitous.
That's why I don't listen to Lady Gaga.
In history circles where I move, it's so ubiquitous that I'm like, ugh, enough. But of course, it's essentially the second part of the American Revolution where all the hypocrisy, or a lot of the bourgeois hypocrisy of the American War of Independence gets resolved. A lot of it does not, and becomes a lot worse. But
that's also
more on that later.
Another important lesson with like these long-ranging historical discussions is that one war is generally just the continuance of a previous one, in the same sense that like one state is the continuance of another. Like people talk about, I mean, sorry, slide aside, but like Rome, right? And how Rome, lasted for fucking thousands of years, and then it collapsed all in one instant. When clearly that's not what happened. It just
that's absolutely
slowly
not. People thought Rome was around in the 18th century.
And so that's how states ultimately function, is they transmute into other forms. And the same thing happens with events, where events don't follow great man syndrome, right?
No.
Where
there are exceptions, of course, because Napoleon.
Yeah, there's always exceptions,
but
right?
No, more often than please don't look at those. Those are
those aren't the real palace guards. Not my palace guards.
Not my palace guards.
Well, actually, in a way, they're exactly it. But I'm not sure if they have the power to overthrow Putin. That would be metal as shit if they could.
That would be pretty cool.
But yeah, there you go. We'll be talking about these guys.
What a fucking dude.
Well, that's from the company of Palace Grenadiers.
Yeah, those I know, but like the beard, and then also he's got like a helmet that's a beard.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Well, these guys were usually drafted from dudes that were in the army for like 40 years and had like 20 campaigns under the belts. So the guys, the guys that
killed more people than I've like talked to, probably.
Just Ladanya.
Don't get any on you.
I really hope that's just his hair, like that's just been tortured into that shape.
Yeah,
it's just this amazing fro.
Yeah, Russian fro. Yeah.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Has to be contained.
We can talk about Abram Petrovich. We can talk about Abram Petrovich Ganibal, a black man in Russia and a huge fucking friend of Peter the Great.
But we gotta escape Peter the Great eventually.
Have we talked about Ganibal yet? Yeah. General Ganibal. Yeah. Abram
in Russia. John just goes black man in Russia.
Nope.
The only one. The one.
There's actually a lot of black people in Russia, and they mostly come from cultural exchange programs during the Soviet Union, because the Soviet Union was supporting a bunch of communist shit in Africa. In Moscow, they have a Patrice Lumumba University, which is adjunct to the Moscow State University. But
I bet the Dukester loves that. Let us continue.
Anyway, no, I love this. This is great. We will never arrive at our destination. So
no,
that's
sometimes
part of the fun.
It's about the journey.
Peter the Great, part 4.
Yeah. Well, again, we've been away from Peter the Great for 20 years now. So.
Yeah, but we keep on like
all
returning.
of these people.
We're stuck in his orbit. We may have left him, but
that's true, and that's a wonderful point. Peter the Great left such an impression of absolutism
try to spin this
change.
Into some kind of poetic thing.
How are they not living under a shadow? How are they not?
I'm just kidding.
Just
calm down.
Going through their world as a result of his succession laws.
I'm sorry if I triggered you.
No, I love you. This is great. I've had enough to say that to you now.
Peter's the Great Addendum.
This is just the Peter the Great show now. So anyway, Germans are in charge. The fucking queen doesn't want to be. The queen doesn't want to be ruling. The actual emperor is a baby. Peter the Great's daughter, Elizabeth, starts spending a bunch of time at the guard barracks. I wonder why. She shows up. She gives out monetary gifts. She shows up and she baptizes their children. She shows up and talks to them as equals. At this point, the guards are not all nobles. It's been 20 years. Anna Ioannovna specifically makes it a point to start drawing private soldiers from peasants, as with the rest of the army.
You're talking face of the about guards Elizabeth the Great, correct?
No. This is Elizabeth Petrovna. She was not the Great. It's not Catherine the Great yet. So, but Elizabeth Petrovna is, in a way, a force of her own, because she is able to convince the entire city of St. Petersburg, these guards, that she's one of them, that Peter would have wanted her to be empress. They call her mother. She's 31 years old. They call her mother. She calls them my children. She showers them with gifts. And at one point, they straight up, like people, they accost her in the street, these guards, and they're like, just give the order. We will storm that palace and kill everyone in it. She's like, and she, huh?
Is this the black man?
That's no, that's Catherine the Great in her uniform. That might just be like a page. Obviously, there black people have existed in Russia, but that is not the that's not General Ganibal. General Ganibal became a general at one point, and then he was the grandfather of Russia's most famous poet, Alexander Pushkin. His you may have heard of Pushkin, maybe Danko, but he's Russia's most celebrated poet, and his grandfather was a black man.
Isn't he? Never mind. I'm not going to turn this into a thing.
Not yet. This is. I mean, he'll come up soon after the Napoleonic Wars. He's an important part of the Russian cultural landscape. But she says, the time is coming, and she tries to go and convince her relative. I think it's her aunt or something, or cousin. I guess they're cousins at this point. And that painting right there. That's going to be awesome. I wanted that to be the theme of the episode right there, is the drunk grenadiers toasting Elizabeth.
That rules.
That should be the image background. And I love how they're all like fat and drunk and awkward as shit.
That's us. Fat, drunk, awkward as shit.
With wigs, just so many wigs. Yeah.
We all have wigs.
But essentially she gets in a tizzy with the queen, Anna Leopoldovna. They do not settle their differences. Throughout the entirety of this, there's planning and scheming, and everyone in the city knows that Elizabeth is going to plan a coup. Anna does not listen to it. She dismisses it. And eventually the coup does happen. Because Elizabeth Petrovna, again, is this nice, plump, Baroque lady. Also, she puts a cuirass on for this coup. She's a bit slow. And the soldiers are all drunk. There's 300 of them. They're drunk. They're nervous. They're excited. They pick her up on their shoulders and fucking use her essentially as a battering ram to break into the palace, go to the quarters of the, Anna, the existing empress, say that they're under arrest. She takes over. They get into the baby's room, but Elizabeth is like, this is the baby, Ivan VI. And she's like, don't wake him up. So these drunk ass fucking men with muskets break in and quietly stand by the bedside of this infant for an hour until he wakes up. He wakes up, he sees them, he starts screaming. At this point, there's a huge commotion. They pick him up, they fucking drag her to him. And in the meantime, they pick up and kind of drop another baby, Ivan VI's sister, and she goes deaf for the rest of her life from that. So, kind of whoopsie daisies. Yeah, whoopsie daisies. But eventually, Elizabeth puts everybody under arrest, and poor Ivan VI is placed in prison for the rest of his life.
As a baby.
He spends the rest of his life essentially off and on. They use him as a figurehead first, then she declares her own primacy. And he spends the rest of his life in prison. And he dies there. So again, he was inconvenient because he represented the male line of a separate fucking thing. And Elizabeth Petrovna reigns over some of the good culture. What is happening? What are you even fucking Googling? What is going on?
This is why I love the listener.
Ivan VI mugshot. You understand they didn't have photograph. Like, what are you doing? Like, they didn't have mugshot. What are you?
I'm contributing.
John never does any of the reading, so he feels a little
there
bit
is no reading. I'm just Ivan the Great. His mugshot was this little Baroque painting. Or Ivan VI, sorry. Not Ivan the Great was Ivan I, and he was in the Middle Ages. God, they're all the greats, aren't they? Fuck.
Name one Ivan that isn't great, I dare you.
Oh God, there's so many. That's the most common name.
So Elizabeth, she's
Yes, Elizabeth. The whole coup it's got to get financed, right? We talked about permanent ambassadors. Well, guess who finances the entire coup? It's the French ambassador, Marquis de Châteauroux. Why? Why do the French have an interest in funding a coup? Well, at the time, the Russians are already involved in a war with the Swedes, who are French allies, and the Chancellor, Osterman, is cultivating an Austrian alliance. The French don't like that because right at the corner of the 1740s, we have the War of Austrian Succession. You have the Empress Maria Theresia, who, by the pragmatic sanction of her dying father, lets her inherit the throne. And this is the throne of the Holy Roman Empire, which has never been inherited before by a woman. The War of the Austrian Succession starts. You have Prussia, led by Friedrich the Great. We talked about him before. He was a super fabulous. He's a wonderful, wonderful gay man. He truly was the great. Again, a lot of great people at this time. Friedrich the Great was a very, very good commander. He did not, he threw himself into war simultaneously against Russia, Austria, and France. He did not underestimate his army. His army was amazing and he kept winning. What he did overestimate was the capacity of just his country. In the 7 Years' War, which is to follow, well, first the War of Austrian Succession, and then the 7 Years' War, which is technically the First World War because it takes place, you guys know it here as the French and Indian War. In Europe, it is fought as the 7 Years' War. There's combat that takes place in India between the French and British. There's a variety of colonial matters being settled. There's a variety of European matters being settled. And during this time, Prussia loses approximately 1.5 million people, both in soldiers and civilians. The death toll in the 7 Years' War is very, very fucking large compared to anything that's come before it, except maybe the 30 Years' War. But the 30 Years' War lasts 30 years and it depopulates vast swaths of Germany. So you have increased gunpowder or firepower of cannon. You have these professional armies that are shooting each other. Again, not a lot of deaths from musket fire unless you're very, very close. Cannons are causing a lot of this damage. Once a unit breaks, cavalry pursues. That's where most of your casualties are going to come from. But 7 Years' War, in the scope of Russia, the war of Austrian Succession, Russia doesn't participate a lot. It participates at the end. But again, European geopolitics, always at the forefront, always at the background. There's people that try to argue again that Russia is an Asian country. Russia has been a European country and has participated in European affairs for much longer and way before Peter, even before the westernization of Russia took place. Again, we talked about Kiev and Kievan Rus in the 800s and 900s and the trade routes down to Byzantium. We talked about Novgorod and the trade between the Crusaders and the Vikings and the Swedes and the Franks and all that shit. We talked about the later conflicts between the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth and the last Rurikowicz Tsars. And of course, Peter completely westernizes, opens the window to the west, gets St. Petersburg, fully European country. But at the same time, you have these vestiges of the old medieval times still left because you still have fucking trigger word alert in Crimea. You still have the spiritual successors of the Mongols, the Crimean Tatars, an actual ethnicity that's still around today. They're the descendants of Mongolians that have settled down. And at this point, they have their own khanate, and they're some people like to lump them in with the Ottomans, the Turks, but they were their own fully fledged state with a huge army with very competent cavalry, that sort of stuff. At times, the Crimean Tatars would inflict horrendous losses on the Russians throughout the 1600s, early 1700s. By the 1700s, we have this full Europeanization of the military, and throughout the 18th century, you will start the conquest of Crimea, and it will finish with Catherine the Great. She will essentially conquer most of modern Ukraine, add it to the Russian Empire, and you will start the Black Sea will start becoming a function. And again, in the north, you have this window to the west. You have the Baltic open to the Navy. That's a Russian crepe. What is that? What are you doing? What was that?
Oh, I have.
Oh, yeah. Yep. The
John has a
Rus, I think, is,
disability.
yeah.
I'm
They're a real ethnicity. They are, frankly, they've been repressed by everyone forever. They've been repressed by everybody. So again, the Russians currently have Crimea. The Tatars are being repressed. When Ukrainians had Crimea, they were being repressed. Before then, the Soviet Union, they were being repressed. And before then, it was the Russian Empire, they were being repressed. And before then, they were their own thing. Yeah.
These are the black people of Russia.
Yeah.
Oh no, we in Russia when you talk
have
about
actual black people. Yeah.
Well, in Russia, when you refer to someone who's black, that means they're from the Caucasus.
Oh.
So you're Chechens, you're Georgians, you're Armenians. There's and yes, they are often seen as class citizens.
They're not Caucasian.
Russia is super citizen.
Sorry.
I hate that term.
Ignore it.
I hate that term for obvious
Ignore
reasons.
me.
Okay, but also looking
I like
way
how
back.
we let Teddy just like spin some yarn, and then we jump in to like tangle the yarn and
yeah, I'm a kitty cat.
Obfuscate the yarn and like shit on the yarn a little bit, and then
well, everyone in Europe except the Finns and the Hungarians is a descendant of the Indo-Europeans who lived somewhere around Ukraine, Crimea, that's Central Asia in the steppe. This is, of course, Neolithics. That's why we have Indo-European languages, Indo-European everything, culture. Right around those steppes is where a bunch of European ancestors fucking lived, and then they spread throughout. They went south to India, they went south to Iran, they went south to the Middle East, they traveled west to Europe, settled in every single part of Europe, except the only people that were not at the time, I think, were the Etruscans. The Etruscans who lived next to the Romans, they were also not Indo-Europeans. There's still a lot of question marks regarding the Etruscans. But of course, the Finns.
Etruscan history is actually something I'd like to get into one day.
Oh, it's super cool because they love to put their alphabet on shit.
Yeah.
And their alphabet is the Phoenician alphabet, so you can read it like as A, B, C, D, E, but it was not like that, and nobody fucking knows what it means.
Exactly.
It's one of those. It's one of those undiscovered. And these assholes were such cocks that they would put their alphabet on everything. It was like a decoration for them, and we don't fucking know.
It starts with an E. Etruscan.
Yeah, Etruscans. They're cool, and that's the most recent meme.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, the most recent meme was the fucking the boar bowl or whatever making its way through classic.
Oh
meme.
yeah.
Yes.
But of course, I found out that it was, but the boar bowl was unfortunately found out to be a fake. So obviously, that's Nazi duck as always. Fetish. What?
I don't know where John.
Of course, fetishism is a religion that involves fetishes. There's a lot of African religions are considered fetishist. So your hoodoo, your voodoo, your Santeria, those are considered fetishist. Yeah, top left, Etruscan. That's a good picture.
That guy's got a dickhead.
Yeah. Ooh, and of course the Romans and the Greeks, who they lived alongside, considered Etruscans to be horrible barbarians because guess what they let people do? They let women drink with them. They let women sit and talk. And I know. And of course, to a Greek and to a Roman, that shit was like the lowest form of vulgarity.
Well, also, I think the Etruscans had sex with women, and the Greeks and the Romans would not have liked
they
that.
were just So again, the Greeks and the baby. Of course, the baby Romans at the time, they thought that was just the most vulgar, weird shit. They did not dig the Etruscans at all. But again, going to Italy. You have these populations of Greeks, Romans, and Etruscans living side by side within the Gulf of Naples, I think. Mm-hmm. Within eyesight, you can go to Naples and see the Gulf, and like you can see within the Gulf of Naples, there were 3 separate settlements, all within eyesight of each other, and they were different cultures, and they didn't kill each other; they're just living and just chilling. So that's it was very, very side by side, the development of Roman, Sicilian, Greek, and Etruscan culture, and of course, Sicily used to be called Sicily and the boot part. So I guess like old, like what you refer to by Sicily used to be called Magna Graecia or Magna Graecia by the Latins, so Great Greece. So much so that they thought that more Greeks lived in Sicily than in Greece. And it was great. At sometimes when the Greek states were the great city states would become weak, the Sicilian Greek city states were still very prosperous. You've heard of Syracuse. That's of course a Sicilian Greek city state. You've heard of Pythagoras. Well, no, not Pythagoras. It was Archimedes. Archimedes was the main Syracusan guy, and the Romans came and fucking killed him because they were sieging it down, and he was inventing all sorts of clever shit to stop them. But yeah, the Etruscan alphabet, you can see they just love to write it all over their shit. And they also, their burial mounds are interesting in that they would just make a house and then bury it. So they would have like just a straight up like living house, and then they would bury their people in it with all the shit. So it's really cool.
They're like, all right, well, this house is done.
So we got the houses that we live in, we got the houses that we die in, and it's chill. It's kind of chill. Someone just died. Oh, someone died.
Danko disconnected.
Did you die?
He's not back in the Zoom yet.
Okay. No, Etruscans are super cool, and I would love to talk about them if you wish.
Yeah. We can do that as a side episode sometime.
Yeah.
I think at this point let's go back to Russia in a way that we establish where we've left off.
Yeah, because I would like to kind of wrap things up because I don't have any more material for today. Because I don't want to get into I don't want to get into Catherine the Great because she I think should be her own episode.
So we will start at Catherine the Great on the next episode. Is that correct?
Or well, there's still a little bit of
a little bit before her, but
yeah, because Elizabeth reigns for a long time. Okay. Things are prosperous. She participates in a couple wars, does pretty well. She starts the Russian Academy of Sciences, or something close to that. I forget. She starts the Moscow State University. The famous Russian scientist Mikhail Lomonosov is born and lives during this time. A lot of good shit is started, but eventually she gets old, she gets sick, she dies. I didn't do the research exactly on how, but she designates as her successor. I think again, it's this weird niece nephew. She designates at this point a complete German.
Well, her nephew. I think what happens, with all these appointees, so to speak, is that the kids that they actually have are not of age, or they're
brats,
fail sons.
Yeah, or they're just shitty.
Well, it worked for the Romans for a time.
Yeah, no, and I think Russia is kind of going through its own mid-Roman era of empire, right?
Yeah, sure. You had your Augustus with Peter, and all of a sudden we're stuck with Claudius or whatever.
And so the ruler at the time, in this case Elizabeth, is like, well, I don't want shitty kid that I turned out. It turns out that my nephew is hungrier for the power, or wants it more, and is more adept at working this machinery, so I'll pick him. Or the niece that seems to be more adept at this kind of thing, just because it's not handed to her necessarily, but
but Elizabeth also never gets married and never has any kids, so that's another
so in her case it's just well, I have nobody else.
So she designates her nephew, again, Duke Karl Peter Ulrich of Holstein.
All right. He becomes Duke Karl Peter.
He shows up in Russia and becomes Peter the Third, and that's where we will end up. But again, this dude is just however many fucking percents German. Just right in Peter the Third.
It's that
he was a big fan.
Row with the hair.
Yeah, Peter I. Peter I. Not Peter. What is that? That's Peter is something you start.
Google will fix it. Google will fix it.
There you go. That's the guy.
Oh man, what a Chad.
Well, that's the So he was a huge fan of Friedrich. They were actually really good friends. Yeah, we'll talk about Peter and his assassination next time.
So we're going back to a Peter.
Yep, who doesn't last long. Again, not a lot of Peters lasting long after the Great.
If you know what I mean.
After the third, they learn their lesson.
Peter doesn't last long.
Yeah. But yeah, I think we can comfortably leave off here.
All right, well,
and we can come back.
Teddy, thank you so much for your time tonight.
No problem, guys. Sorry if it's a little drier this time.
No.
This isn't my exact wheelhouse. We are fast approaching my actual wheelhouse, which is the Napoleonic era, and that is going to be fun.
Yes, we are excited for it. We get requests for the Russian history episodes all the time. So looking forward to it, and thank you for your time tonight. We are going to do just a little bit more after Teddy takes off here, and then we'll call it a night. So, Teddy, thank you. Have a good night.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
We lost Danko again.
Well, Danko left instead. Yeah. So now Teddy has to stay.
No, I don't think Teddy has to stay.
My internet is bad.
Yeah. That's fine. All right. Well, we have one last thing that you wanted to look at, Danko, before we go.
Oh yeah, this is important news. I'm sure, like most people, have already kind of heard about this. It's a big deal. I'm gonna send the link in. It's kind of
looking up important news.
We're gonna vet this.
Yeah. I'm gonna send it into the Discord here.
Yeah, and it's the top 10 links on Google. I'm gonna veto it.
You've gone mad with power, John.
Yeah.
I don't know who gave you power, but you've gone mad with it.
There it is. There you go. It's about Tom Hanks. I think everyone's heard about what happened to Tom Hanks.
No, I haven't heard any of this.
Yeah.
It's in the Discord, John.
Yeah, no, but I'm trying to see if it's important news or not.
Just do it.
Just go to the Discord, you motherfucker. Some of us have full bladders right now.
There's a video. It's about 6 or 7 minutes long, I think. I think we should watch the whole thing.
Okay. Can we actually, before we start this, because I didn't know it was going to be 5 or 10 minutes long, it looks like. Let's take a quick break and we'll come back. Is that all right?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, this is important, but
your little baby bladder.
My little baby bladder that's been drinking vodka cranberries since like an hour and a half ago.
All right. Fine. Yeah, that's fine. Whatever.
Fine. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
All right. We will be right back. You won't have to listen to all this.
We'll cut here or before.
Okay, we are back from our baby bladder break, and we are going to review some important stuff about Guantanamo Bay, starring
Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks.
Yeah. That poor bastard.
He won't stop acting, will he?
No. Well, you'll
maybe after this, huh?
We should play the video instead of looking up other stuff.
just go back to the last. There we go. That was insanely loud.
Right?
This is David Zublake in the Dark Outpost newsroom with some breaking news. Many of you who have subscribed to our premium channel, darkoutpost.tv, the Inner Circle, are aware that as part of that subscription, if you send us a receipt for that subscription, you receive something known as the Super Bundle, which contains a Guantanamo Bay list, a Gitmo list, a list of everyone arrested, taken to Guantanamo Bay, tried, convicted, and or sentenced to life imprisonment or execution. As part of that Guantanamo Bay list, you will note that actor Tom Hanks is listed as having been arrested, tried, and executed for his crimes. That is the truth. However, up until now, we have not had the complete detail.
What the fuck is going on?
No, just keep playing.
Well, he's saying what's going on.
Details on his arrest and his military tribunal, as well as the details of his execution. That is until today. We have that information now for you, and we'll bring it to you in just a moment. It's very important that we get this information out there as quickly as possible. But first, Bitcoin has sunk below $40,000, and the world is celebrating. Why? Because the most successful investors buy when everyone else is selling and sells when everyone buys. But cryptocurrency,
by the way, I just put like $20,000 into Iraqi dinars. Go on.
Great.
Investment. Its potential for loss is just as great as its potential for gains. It is exciting, but nerve-wracking at the same time. And that's why when you invest, you need to have the peace of mind that you're investing through a secure platform that has your back, so you can concentrate strictly on investing. My Digital Money is a crypto IRA platform that provides you all of that and much, much more. They offer an unparalleled military-grade cold storage for your cryptos using ex-military bunkers. Your cryptos are in good hands. They also offer one of the most comprehensive insurance policies available. And because this was created by Colin Bloom, CEO of Noble Gold, MDM offers the same U.S.-based company client service. Yes, they're not just a U.S.-based company. Their customer service is U.S.
Pause real
based
quick,
as
actually.
well.
What?
Yeah. I believe everything this gentleman is saying.
Yeah.
It's a little bit weird to throw a Bitcoin ad in the middle of Tom Hanks has been executed at Guantanamo Bay segment, but
well, it's about the cold storage.
Right,
for the decentralized currency.
Yeah, I guess so.
The military bunkers for our crypto coin.
And this gentleman's name is David Zublik, and I just want to let the listener
PhD, probably.
Sure, yeah, no, multiple awards of academia, I'm sure. I just want the listener and viewer to know that you should not cyberbully this person. I'm winking heavily as I say this. Should not be cyberbullied. Continue, please. I would like to hear more about cryptocurrency.
Well, you can call them and you'll get a warm body to help you with any issue that you might have or answer all of your questions.
Honestly, we need his
producer.
producer.
Forgotten password or help.
And like audio tech.
Yeah.
What's up?
We need his audio tech.
Yeah, his audio tech is even better than ours, which is me.
Yeah, no, it can pick up his like weird COVID gasp. Like, what is that? It can, like, I've barely been able to listen to him because of his like gasping.
Well, it's stressful what he's about to tell us.
Oh, okay. So that's why he's gasping.
So let's get to the meat of this.
Yeah.
My Digital Money will help you open and maintain your crypto IRA. Just visit their website, mydigitalmoney.com. That's mydigitalmoney.com. Digital currency is a new and, well, a very speculative market. It's risky. No outcome can be predicted, and any investment is subject to complete loss and not suitable for all investors. But you've got enough to worry about with cryptocurrency. Go to a platform that will at least secure the risks you are taking. Again, that's www.mydigitalmoney.com, or just click the link in the description of this video. And now we present you this information that was just come to Dark Outpost's attention about the execution of actor Tom Hanks. Dark Outpost has learned exclusively that actor Tom Hanks, who had been spending time at Guantanamo Bay and who was executed in 2019.
2019? He's been dead for 2 years.
And torturous death at the hands of the United States military after a tribunal which found him guilty of pedophilia and child endangerment.
What?
On June 12, 2019, the U.S. military apprehended Hanks after a plane.
Can we pause real quick? So normally, Gitmo is the state overreaching.
Yeah.
Well,
not anymore. I mean,
yeah, but
that's
now
why Obama wanted to shut it down.
Now Gitmo is the state properly prosecuting pedophiles.
Yeah, for endangering children with pedophilia.
Properly prosecuting pedophiles, the original PPP.
Yeah.
Continue, John. Sorry.
Where he held dual citizenship, landed in Malpensa Airport in Milan, Italy, where Hanks had been scheduled to attend a foreign film festival. U.S. military sources have told Dark Outpost that members of the 173rd Airborne Combat Brigade and
Is that supposed to be Tom Hanks?
Yes.
Yeah, that's him.
But
why would you ask the question? Continue, John, please.
Oh, okay. I mean, I'm probably blind.
No, you see his hat.
Yeah, he's got the same kind of hat that Tom Hanks would wear.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm being an R word. It's a white guy with a hat holding his hands up.
Thank you.
He's America's dad, or he was.
Yeah, now he's dead.
That's definitely Tom Hanks.
Were awaiting Hanks' arrival when the Learjet 75 reached the airport apron. Weapons drawn, they boarded the plane and found Hanks seated beside longtime friend Peter Scolari, who in 1980 starred alongside Hanks in the television sitcom Bosom Buddies, in which the duo portrayed transvestites living in an all-female college dormitory. Hanks would later say it was his favorite role, and that wearing women's clothes made him feel more manly. The military released Scolari, but shackled and promptly ushered Hanks aboard a waiting C-130, which had to be refueled twice in flight to reach Guantanamo Bay. Upon landing, Hanks was placed in a holding cell in Camp Delta to await his military tribunal. 10 days later, Hanks had his day in court, with the U.S. Navy Judge Advocate General Corps presenting proof connecting Hanks to a child trafficking ring that the military alleged had worked in the shadows for 30 years. It presented into evidence many electronic devices, laptops, and cell phones that held photographs and videos of Hanks engaged in sexual intercourse with male children who are obviously below the age of consent. Other videos showed Hanks involved in adrenochrome parties, gatherings at which liberal elite and Hollywood A-listers commingle and inject into themselves an unhealthy chemical compound made of oxidized adrenaline, which is extracted from frightened and tortured children, and synthetic opiates. Those who partake in the Luciferian ritual believe the compound prevents illness, extends life, and enhances sexual prowess. One video showed Hanks and songstress Lady Gaga injecting each other while an unseen child screams, the wailing sound of death echoing in the background.
So that's the other reason I don't listen to her.
So yeah, and so I knew about Hollywood's adrenochrome pandemic.
Yeah, they essentially just do it out in the open now.
Yeah. No, I didn't know that they were so bougie that. So what do they like get a spinal tap on the kid, and they just like mainline that shit, or put it right into a spoon and like.
Did you ever see Monsters Inc?
Yeah.
So you know how the monsters scare the children?
Yeah.
Well, now they have a crew of medical professionals come behind those monsters, and they stick a syringe deep into the lower spinal cord and extract the adrenochrome from these children.
Oh, and
yeah,
inject it while it's hot.
Yes,
You know?
hot off the press is what they call it, actually.
Yeah.
It's just like Monsters Inc.
Yeah,
It's
luxurious.
Like Monsters, Inc. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how
Luxurious.
they get their adrenochrome.
Yeah, let's
Unlike
let's
me.
roll this out.
The military's case was built on 50 video clips and 2,000 images, according to sources to Dark Outpost. A 3-officer panel, however, found the content so disturbing that it reached a verdict of guilty after watching only 4 snippets. Hanks, when asked if he had anything to say in his defense, showed no remorse for his crimes and told the tribunal that adult-child intercourse was natural and that he proudly supported NAMBLA, the North American Man-Boy Love Association, a pedophilia and pederasty advocacy organization in the United States. The tribunal declared Hanks received capital punishment and asked that his sentence be carried out expeditiously. My death won't stop anything. We are everywhere, Hanks said. 3 days later, Hanks received an injection other than adrenochrome. He was strapped to a gurney and had pancuronium bromide, potassium chloride, and midazolam injected into his veins. If any adrenochrome remained in his blood, it obviously wasn't potent enough to protect him against this lethal injection. Sources say Hanks screamed in agony, his flesh turned a bluish color, his eyes protruded from his head, and he died writhing in agony. Once again, Tom Hanks, executed at Guantanamo Bay in July of 2019.
Yeah, I figured
there you have it, Tom Hanks'
well, there you have
complete story. And of course, as we continue to get further updates on others that are on the Guantanamo Bay list and who have been executed, as we get their full stories and how everything played out, we will, of course, bring those to you on the Dark Outpost. Once again, we're just repeating Tom Hanks, obviously arrested in June of 2019, had a military tribunal and was executed in early July of 2019. And now you have the complete story of his background there. We will continue to follow this story for you, as well as I said, everyone on the Guantanamo Bay list, and bring those stories to you as they become available. This is David Zubelik from the Dark Outpost newsroom.
You know, it's just, this was a real road to perdition. You know, and I just I don't know how to feel, because he is like, he's like America's dad, you know, like but you know what, he got well, this actually might be a little controversial, but he got what he deserved.
Actually, by exploiting children, he's more America's dad than any American dad has ever American dadded, right?
That yeah.
I mean, did he make money off of these kids?
No, he made eternal life off these children.
Oh,
yeah. Also eternal life until
that's kind of Chinese, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know,
it's very Chinese.
Suspect, yeah. Man, well, thank you for sharing what's obviously the truth.
Yeah, I mean, it's important with all the lies that we tell on the podcast. I figured that we should balance it out a little bit.
Every now and then we gotta
something legitimate,
some real shit in there. Chum the waters.
And I know that
chum the waters. I think they say
exactly. And I make a lot of jokes, you know, and you know, sometimes I feel like maybe I come onto this podcast and I cause some problems, and I can make things a little bit difficult for you, and I apologize, but you know, I wanted to bring you this.
Yeah,
to really make this work out.
Truth.
Yeah.
Man, yeah, that's where do you start with
hard
that?
To end it after that. Yeah.
Where do you end with that?
And Chet Hanks, by the way, is also, he's probably
he's
not going to be doing great. Yeah. Well, yeah. So was Tom. I mean, that's why Tom is that's why he was around.
I don't know what's happening recently. In
this. That's adrenochrome oxide.
Like piss.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, that's how they actually get it from the kids.
Yeah, this is a bag of adrenochrome.
Well, he says plasma, but what he really means is adrenochrome.
Yeah, no, that is at
Look,
least.
I'm gonna say something controversial.
It's a code word. It's whenever you get plasma, you're actually injecting it.
Can I say something controversial here? I know we don't like controversial takes on this broadcast.
Okay, if you're sure, it seems dangerous.
Yeah. I fully believe that like everyone in Hollywood has fucked a kid. Let's just go ahead and throw that out there. But like the adrenochrome thing, like they're not grinding kids into paste to like inject it into their fucking body. Probably they're just fucking the kids, just doing regular old kid fucking, which we should be against. But
we should be.
Yeah, I personally am against it. I don't know what the rest of you feel like on that that particular subject. I'm not going to make any assumptions for you, and you don't have to state your position at this time.
Yeah,
to like
it's probably for the best.
Fit in or anything. But like, yeah, most of these fucking Hollywood
not
people,
a yes man.
They're probably like fucking kids. They're doing stuff that they shouldn't do, and we know it. And you know, Epstein's Black Book, you know, like shows like all these prominent people on it, and I don't think he made that Black Book up. You know, Bill Clinton's on there. Of course he was fucking kids. Yeah. He would fuck anything with 2 legs.
He's also dead. Oh
yeah, without a doubt. Yeah. No. Have you seen that corpse that Hillary's dragging around nowadays?
Yeah.
Really looks like
because the clones the clones have shorter lifespans, you know. So yeah, they die every like 36 hours.
They deteriorate quickly.
Yeah. They die in the same way that Tom did, by the way. They turn blue and their eyes bulge out, and then they say something very ominous.
Yes.
Like, we are everywhere.
You can't tell me that that's a real alive person.
There's this picture of Ronald Reagan is
This is Ronald Reagan 20 years later. Unironically though.
Yeah. Have you noticed that, you know, all of our presidents eventually just turn into shoes?
I have noticed that. Yeah.
Just a pair of shoes. Yeah.
No. Anyway, I don't know, that this has been really exhausting for me this last bit. So
okay, well, yeah, that's.
I think we should call it. I mean, yeah, maybe.
No, yeah. We should definitely call it here. Tom Hanks injecting adrenochrome. Executed by the state, which we trust. We trust the state, and we trust.
Just not the deep state. We trust has nothing to do with Gitmo.
Yeah,
you know?
But the deep state, when it starts getting into like how Obama's still controlling everything.
Yeah.
We
except for these things.
Right.
Yeah.
Bill Clinton sheds carapace. Not.
I mean, once every 36 hours.
Not getting quite the results you wanted, huh, John?
Yeah, no.
Google is
more evidence that he does have a carapace that he sheds, because you know there's suppressing it.
So,
right. Exactly.
Before we get too much deeper into this, let's go ahead and call it here.
All right.
I keep forgetting to bring up the Patreon.
It's
been like 3 episodes since I brought it up, I think. Patreon.com/BenzoRehabDungeon. That exists. You can give money to it if you want to, but otherwise you're not obligated to, and we'll never put this behind a paywall. So you're not getting anything out of it except the satisfaction that you're paying us for whatever we're doing here. Danko, do you have anything coming up that you would like to announce?
Yeah, the seminar workshop is coming back tomorrow morning. If this is released tonight.
It will be.
And so tomorrow morning, we're having our first session. We're doing this as a semester, but you can pop in anytime you want. So we have an ongoing thematic, kind of interconnected lesson plan going on through beginning of February, actually. Full break and stuff in there. We'll have some open workshops, but kind of a reminder for everyone that all of the workshops are technically open. You can just come to these if you want. You don't have to pay me. It's fine. At this point in time, while we're waiting to have content ready for something like a publication, I'm taking the money and I'm just donating it to random causes. I mean, it's not random, but yeah, to causes.
not random, but like
yeah, I don't just throw it at
various
the wall.
causes that are
various
legitimate
causes.
and good.
Yeah, not just my drug habit, adrenochrome habit. But yeah, so that's coming back tomorrow. It happens every week, Saturday, 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. PST. There is a Patreon, patreon.com/Truncata, TRUNCATA. But again, if you just send Deebs or myself a message, we can get you the link to it. And the readings are suggested, but the prompts and the writing and all of that is totally optional. There's never going to be any pressure for you to do anything you don't want to do. Yep. Otherwise, I don't think I have anything else going on. I know a couple people working on some new interesting projects, but I'll probably pitch those in the near future as they kind of get off the ground a little bit more.
Cool. Yeah. John, do you have anything you want to say?
Yep. So I will be away for a week. I am going out into a national park to try to get a video footage of me being fucked to death by a bear.
God bless it.
Yeah.
By a what? A bear.
By a parrot.
Bear.
A bear.
Yeah.
Okay.
A parrot.
Yeah.
Well,
human or animal bear, whichever.
Godspeed.
As long as it's to death.
As always, dear listener, dear viewer, we love you. Please take your medicine.
Please take mine too.
And save some for your friends.
Hi, Michael Deebs here, with no gun pointed at my head. Please know that all content created for the Benzo Rehab Dungeon is and always will be freely available. However, if you would like to support this creation of content, we here at Camp Benzo would appreciate it, as the production itself is not free of cost. Anything donated will go to covering the various subscription fees maintained for content production or improving and expanding the content produced. If you are able to, please head on over to patreon.com/BenzoRehabDungeon. We also have shirts for sale on Teespring, all priced as low as we can get them without turning much or any profit. They are mostly so that you can show your loved ones that a necessary intervention may be on the horizon. Links to the merchandise storefront and our various social media profiles can be found on our link tree, which is the word link tr.ee/BenzoRehabDungeon. As always, we love you. Please take your medicine.